What's happening, everybody? I am stoked to be here to be alongside Dr. Samuel Lee, who is a board certified psychiatrist, founder of Limitless Living, and the host of the Spiritual Psychiatrist podcast, which I do listen to, and I love the guests that you're bringing through there. What's up, Samuel? How you doing, my man?
What's up, brother? I'm doing pretty good, flowing with life, and it's a joy to be here, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, before we dive into this vast topic of spiritual mastery, which we're going to attempt to hone in and dial in here, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, about your story, your backstory, your origin story, where you came from, where you've gone, where you are now, what's happening in your life, the highlights, illuminate anything for us here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such an interesting question when people ask me now, like, where are you from? Because there's once you open up your multidimensional, simultaneous lives, there's different ways to answer that. So I'll start with, coming straight from source, through the primal light and sound fields, through 12D Lyra, spent some time in Sirius 6B, all the way down to 3D, have many simultaneous lives happening right now. This is the one that I feel I've prepared for a long time. And so in this life, I allowed myself to go through every single psychiatric condition personally. So I literally could have been diagnosed with, you name it, paranoid schizophrenia, bipolar, major depression 4 times, called off my wedding in a manic episode, all the addictions, things like that. And then I became a psychiatrist, and I was working in LA. And when people got problems, they come to LA. So I sat across from the entire world's problems there in West LA, and I was blending fields with the entire world's problems. And I was like learning, like, me too, brother. Me too, sister. Yeah, I'm going through that right now. And then I was learning to, okay, the Western system doesn't really treat the root cause. So 2 weeks before I was to become a partner at one of LA's biggest psychiatric hospital firms, I learned that there's this other voice, this direct cognition, this direct knowing, and it has information beyond space or time. And when I can quiet my mind through my breath, then I can hear this. It's not a voice, it's a direct knowing. And it told me, quit your job. And I did. And then I started going to the beach and just, different tools for different seasons, but started to quiet my mind and pray for the liberation of all sentient beings and a new global paradigm of mental health that treats the root cause, and a new earth where our children can grow up with free land and, according to the original intention of source. And then, now I know through Dr. Joe's work, I was sending out an electric signal and a magnetic frequency, and things started happening and being attracted. And over the last 10 years, it's been a deeply personal healing journey. And then, the spiritual wisdom that I've been finding has been setting me free, because the truth will set us free. I'm learning that spirituality and science are the same thing. They're saying the same thing. And I feel like this is a beautiful season for humanity, where all these ancient scientific principles and teachings and mantras are coming forward. And so for whoever is hungry for the truth and searching for the truth, shout out to the truth seekers. This is the lifetime I feel like we can literally find the truth of who we really are, open up into that truth, and literally liberation and freedom is our birthright. So that's kind of been my journey so far in this lifetime.
I appreciate you sharing that, man. And, one of the reasons I wanted to bring you in for this specific topic in spiritual mastery is one, I find there's this essence about you that kind of cuts through the bullshit and gets through the illusions and really gets down to the core of who we are, right? And, there's not many people out there that I find, I could probably count people on one hand of who I deeply trust within this space to actually speak on this topic. Because I know firsthand, although I don't know you super well, I can tell intuitively, through my own discernment, that you've traveled to the depths, that you do the work, that you are here to represent a higher timeline for humanity. And so again, my intuition says bring Samuel in for this deep topic. And so to lay this out, let's start at the sort of foundational 3D level. what's happening on Earth right now, what people are going through, which is really almost a mass psychosis in a way, lots of confusion, lots of different programs, conditioning, imprints playing out, timelines playing out. What do you see from just a full 3D level of what's happening? And then from there, we'll kind of rise up and look at the higher realms.
Yeah, appreciate the question. On a 3D level, there's cycles. So there is no time, only consciousness moving through different densities. But on the 3D level, there appears to be time because consciousness is slowed down and the particles are moving slower. And so the eternal life cycle is 26,500 something year cycles. I know in Vedic wisdom, they say 25,000, and that's because there was an earth tilt. And literally, it affected the timing of the spinning and the cycles of the earth. But according to the eternal life cycle, it's 26,000 something years. And Earth and humanity in a 3D experiential plane was in kind of a dark night of the soul as a collective, where it was on the 3D was cut off from its fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, or its soul. And and that was like the Crusades, the witches being burned at the stake, the political religious environment literally doing everything it could to create false kind of systems and artificial overlays. So there's different types of lights. There's holographic inserts, which can literally create false timelines, inorganic timelines, and they can literally project holographic inserts through the media, through religious political control. And as we understand, whoever controls the flow of information, which 6 companies were owning all of the media, controls the flow of information, which controls the information which goes into the brain, which is scalar waves, radio waves, television waves, images and symbols. And for the longest time, just like, kind of they do in China or whatever, whoever controls the radio waves, the television waves, literally the frequency goes into the mind, and the mind administers that scalar wave frequency, which communicates with the DNA, which then codes for proteins. So if you can control the media, and people are watching the media and putting their attention, which is worship, on the media, then you can create this mass formation psychosis and get people onto a false inorganic timeline. And if you look at our medical system, our educational system, if you look at all of our systems right now, they were being controlled by these 6 companies, which control the media, which control, and every step down the pyramid, if you want to call it, it's a triangle. The off planet to the on planet, like they don't even care about their children, and down the steps, like less and less and less and less, until the person at home doesn't really even know. They're just consuming the scalar waves, which are communicating with their DNA, which are imprinting their DNA. Now, the cool thing is, though, we're exiting this cycle of this dark night of the soul for humanity, and we're entering a new cycle. And the Schumann resonance of Mother Earth, which is the core heartbeat, core frequency, which we can measure, is starting to increase. And so as we exit, obviously some wisdom calls it, Kali Yuga. They have different names for it, but we're at age of Pisces, and we're entering into what some call the age of Aquarius, the golden age, where the frequency source is increasing its frequency, which is a natural cycle. And what does higher oscillation do? It just light exposes darkness. Higher frequency exposes, and darkness is not bad, because as soon as there's light on it, it's not the shadow, it's awareness. And so we're exiting this cycle, and now all these dense systems, which were abiding by 3D, are slowly, one by one, starting to be exposed. And everybody's higher self is coming online eventually, and source honors free will choice. There's no force in source. For there to be love, there has to be a choice. And so everybody's going to have this choice. Do I want to continue to abide by systems which are based upon greed, competition, lack of transparency, which eventually, it's a mathematical code, consumes energy to create energy, follows a mathematical code. And eventually, if you consume energy to create energy through different dense programs and parasitic programs, then you literally run out of energy, eventually ending up through, and it's going to take a long time for that to happen, but through a black hole, space dust return, with no incarnational memory of your existence. But the truth will set us free. And the truth is that death is inorganic. This is why these verses that, Jesus studied wisdom, and these spiritual teachers would say, I am the resurrection and the life. They talk about eternal life. They talk about eternal living water. They talk about all these different things. And you look in the Bible and people were living 900 years and now the average age is 80 years. What happened? It's a mathematical code and it's energy. If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of frequency and energy. And so there's a mathematical code, which is a base 12 eternal life code, which every human being has the morphogenetic imprint, the morphogenetic field. If you put the right sound, light, and frequency and symbols, it will begin to reactivate the 12-stranded DNA, the eternal life potential, which lies within the intron potential DNA scientists used to call junk. So we're exiting this cycle, and Source is calling us back on this cycle. For those who choose, they will eventually embody their soul, embody their oversoul, 7th, 8th, 9th stranded DNA, and then eventually their avatar Christos self, 10th, 11th, 12th stranded DNA, and then eventually your Rishi self, 13th, 14th, 15th dimension, and then eventually your primal light and sound field. Now, primal light and sound, in the beginning, God said, let there be light. Sound becomes light. In this universe, there's a sound field and a light field. Sound creates light. And then when one can embody their primal light and sound, they become what New Agers call an ascended master. Now, these ascended masters, what they can do is they can take this space dust, recycled space dust, still source, still sacred, and they can utilize, everything is always source, but they can utilize this space dust to create new universes and new galaxies to continue the expansion contract of source, which was the original intention to experience itself in many different forms, through you, through me, through the earth, through all these other universes and galaxies. And so it's, for me, it's, from my perspective, it's this really beautiful inflection point in humanity's history where we're exiting one cycle, we're entering a new cycle. The 3D, which we were cut off from our 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension, is slowly starting to open up, and people are starting to remember, oh, wow, yes, I am eternal. Yes, I do have a soul. Yes, there is a new system, a new decentralized system that is slowly arising. And we are, what I like to call the most epic love story ever. So I feel like it's this important inflection point. And then you notice, like, people like Trump and people like this, they're just playing their role. This, we get to choose. And so they're like causing this mass chaos, but like through the chaos comes clarity and opportunity and exposure. And, everybody's playing their perfect role. And where collective consciousness shifts their focus, that's what collective consciousness will shift into. So if we can get enough of us to embody in transharmonic love and co-resonant frequency harmony, through this co-resonant frequency harmony, we will begin to shift into a different timeline if enough of us start focusing our attention on these new timelines, organic ascension timelines.
Beautifully said. Yeah, there's so much there that you mentioned that I feel I can go down so many different rabbit holes, but to really hone this conversation in even deeper, as you said, this inflection point, right? And there's this sort of thing that happens, right? The contraction happens before the expansion. And a lot of people are starting to wake up to what you're sharing here. Maybe not to the highest levels of what you're putting down, but to a point where they're starting to realize that there's more to life than what they've been living, what they've been experiencing, and so forth. And I imagine the people listening to this conversation, the people in my community, the people coming into this experience are people that are already on this path, and they want to begin to accelerate and align with these organic timelines. And so, a lot of people, and what I see, through my clients, through my teachings, through all the people I serve, is that, there's still like this in-between world where they're stuck in this 3D, old beliefs, old identities, old stories playing out. And then they're having these massive breakthrough moments where they're starting to embody more of their soul's essence. So speaking to that person, someone that's kind of like in between worlds, what is something that they can do to begin to rise above and embody more of their soul on an everyday basis?
Yeah, this is a great question. And so, two words always come to me is, the key is take a look within and you will find you are who you've been looking for the whole time. Congrats, you are it. And when people say everything you need is within, it's the truth. In the intron potential DNA, the 4th, 5th, and 6th stranded DNA is the soul. And so what I always say to people is, you're it. Develop a daily practice something you do every day. And the tools can change, but through invocation of your own words, through breath work, through intention, which is a magnetic frequency that exists between matter. But first step, what I would say is give permission. Say to your higher self, I give you full permission. God, if you're really there, if you're real, I give you full permission to begin showing me who I really am. And start there and just say that out loud to your higher self, whatever you call it, your guides, your higher self, and then watch what happens in your hologram, because there's a permission, and we're co-creating through every word. And then from there, a tool is going to come in, whether that's yoga, whether that's breath work, right? You'll find they'll give you the tools, and they'll meet you halfway. Our higher selves will meet us halfway. And then I always say, develop a daily practice. Obviously our brother Yeshua would go to the mountain and he would pray to the Father. But what was he really doing there, right? He learned tools in India and Egypt. He knew about Kundalini. He knew about all these different things. He learned about meditation and deep silence with Tibetan Buddhism. He knew these tools, and these tools will start finding you. And for every season of embodiment, there's a different tool that will find you, a different podcast, a different teacher. And for he who has ears, when you really are quiet and you can quiet your mind, and that's why I love the work you do, is breath work. Start there. Quiet your mind through breath work. And then when in that silence, whatever tool you're using, meditation, you will literally begin in that silence, like Jesus did on the mountain. Your soul frequencies, your higher self will slowly start to embody. And when this starts to embody, your hologram, your DNA projects your hologram. You're going to start getting waking dream signs in your hologram. Whoa, I'm on the right path. Whether it's angel numbers or whatever, your higher self speaks to you in different ways. And then you start remembering who you are. So I always say, find a tool, and all the tool is a technique to reveal what's already inside, and develop a daily intentional practice. Start with 15 minutes. Like, if you can, the best time in the morning, when the melatonin is the highest, when the veil to the subconscious or the invisible world is the thinnest, 4:35, 6 in the morning, if you can, and then start with something, but like be intentional about it and give permission. And know who you're connecting to. You're not connecting to something outside of you, right? It's you. You are it. You are the source. You are the angel. You are the inner Cristo self, and give full permission for that part of you. And then literally, some people call it God, but like literally invite more of God into your life through daily, intentional daily practice. And all the tool is a tool to help you continuously embody, and your higher self will meet you halfway.
Mm. Yeah, bro. I love that. I love everything you shared there. And, that's the thing right now, is that so many of us have been so programmed and conditioned to look outside for the guru, to the systems and structures. And it's like, it's been within. And you mentioned so many great tools there, the breath, obviously something I teach on, write on, and so forth. And, it's interesting because something I've shared before, but I think is a really good insertion right now in this conversation for people listening, is, many years ago, I had a near-death experience. I died on the Zambezi River. I got revived, went to the lights, sharing all the things that, you talked about there. And then many years later, I did a dark room experience. When I was in the dark room, I was there for 5 days. And about day 3, day 4, DMT started to activate. And I was breathing. I was doing really deep, conscious breathing pretty much for a whole day, just like working with the genetic code, with the DNA. And I began to see the light strands. I began to see the spinal fluid. I began to see the inner workings of what happens when we connect with the spirit of breath, right? As a bridge between earth and heaven, human and divine, and be able to bridge all these worlds together. And so just want to reiterate that, because that is a really important point that you made there about the daily practice, the intentional practice, really, because intention is everything. So beautiful, bro. I want to go deeper into this now. And, a lot of, spiritual teachings, they talk about ascension, which is we're ascending to higher dimensions of self. But what I think is often missed, especially in the spiritual community, is Well, first, there's a lot of bypassing. There's a lot of things that are happening that people aren't attuned to, which is going within the vessel of our own body as a place for wisdom, right? As a vessel for consciousness evolution. So, what role does somatic embodiment play in our awakening process?
Yeah. I love this question, because I think like, perspective is everything. And I think like in the new age community or in previous kind of spiritual to no one's fault, when people think of the word ascension, they think about like, hey, I'm going up there and I'm going up there, or like, hey, but in all actuality, it's not about ascending out.
Yep.
It's literally about being a descended master. And the magic is within the body. It's in the body. The intron potential DNA is inside the body, and we're just literally descending and activating. And that's why integration is so important. The somatic aspect of it and what this body really is. Yes, ascension is when you do spend that time in the morning on the daily practice, like Jesus did on the mountain, praying what he called Father, the consciousness, all that is. Then these codes start coming in. They're already there, and then it's being revealed. But you're not going anywhere to, hey, let me. Well, eventually you can, but you're literally then you got to integrate. You got to integrate these codes into the physical body, because the body keeps the score, and ascension happens in the body. Now, eventually, when we start bringing in these codes from the soul over soul, it's in the body. There is literally a top spin electric spin that starts happening, and a bottom spin magnetic. And when you start aligning, it's called a Merkaba. And the greatest AI, I don't call it an AI, but the master crowning jewel of creation, which no AI can ever replicate, is the human body. And when I'm just present, safe in my body, that's why somatic work is so important, because there's reversed polarity is trauma and karma, and that's in the body. It's in the body. And that's why when you're doing these breathwork sessions, you have these spontaneous release where literally the breath and the power of the higher oscillation spontaneously releases. It can be big trauma, it can be karma, and literally it's happening in the body. And we didn't come to earth to go somewhere else. We came to earth because we chose to be a human being inside this magnificent, beautiful vessel, Merkaba. And when the top spin starts going at the right speed and the bottom starts going at the right speed, the original intention of source, eventually, it's not easy to do, but yes, you can take your body with you to different space-time locations. You first start by taking your consciousness through bilocation. And eventually, the original creation crowning jewel of humanity was to be able to transmigrate, to take your body with you, blink in, blink out through the hydrogen neutron window, which is not currently existing in humanity right now. But when you can introduce that, the original intention of source was to blink in, blink out, take your body with you to any space-time location called transmigration. And that is cool, because then you can go to a council before humanity fell and you can tell them, hey guys, like, this is what's happening with humanity, and petition the eternal councils, and they can grant a new timeline for humanity, and you can literally start your service to humanity becomes limitless. But it happens in the body, and that's why safety is the prerequisite for healing. And that's why, once again, coming back to the breath is the signal to the body that I'm safe. Right. When my breath is calm and relaxed, then the mind falls into the breath, and I fall into the present moment, and I feel safe in my body. And when I'm in that state, the power of now, my eighth chakra becomes aligned at one with all, unattached to anything. And the magic of what we came here to do is to be in the body and to experience God, through the body, through the senses. And so, it's really about becoming a descended master, which I know it's not easy. And that's why a lot of people tend to, and I don't blame them, they've been programmed and conditioned. And, sometimes I have to be very, very strong and, about this too, because it's easy when it doesn't feel comfortable in the body to want to spiritually bypass and just go to whatever tool and leave the body. And, that's, these early childhood traumatic, that's what happened. When this early childhood trauma happened, our consciousness left the body, right? And now we got to learn how to feel safe again, to let the inner child know that, hey, I'm safe. Hey, man, I'm going to self-parent myself. All these protective parts that were built because I'm going to learn how to sit in the body and to safe to feel. So safe to feel. And when I can feel and feel safe, eventually that uncomfortable sensation will neutralize. And one by one, in the cave we fear is the treasure we seek. All these kind of quote unquote false evidence appearing real fears, the more we can sit in our body, be in our breath and feel it one by one, it starts to neutralize the polarity. And eventually on the other side of that is the freedom to be in the body, to feel safe, and to experience God, making love with God in the body through the senses.
Wow. You know, it's interesting everything you're sharing because it very much is in alignment with what I've personally experienced, but also with one of my mentors many years ago shared with me. He said, you know, the portal to awakening is through the body, it's the ascension. And oftentimes that's going into the deepest levels of grief. That's going into the deepest levels of your own wounding and trauma. And that's been a very much a direct experience for me. You know, working with certain medicines, working with breath, having these experiences where all of this just like ancestral collective grief rising within me. But on the other side of that, there's just like this visceral aliveness, this limitless feeling that you go into. And it's like the most uncomfortable, painful process. But on the other side of it is so much liberation. So I just wanted to mirror and reflect what you said there, brother, because everything you shared is spot on. Absolutely spot on. So thank you for sharing that. Go ahead, bro, if you want to share something else.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, and that's the hero's path. And that's why we came to earth, is he who is forgiven much. So some ancient souls, they signed the contract to say, and the parents signed the contract too, where they're like, yes, okay, fine, I'll play this role for you. I'll play the role that triggers this deep karmic grief, this deep karmic feeling of abandonment, this deep karmic feeling, and I will play that role for you. And they're playing their role perfectly. And then, you know, because of this great love of source, because he who is forgiven much can love much. She who has been to the darkest of the darks can appreciate the light all the more. And darkness is not bad. Some ancient souls sign up on purpose. I want to know more about source. I want to learn everything about source. And I'm going to come to this planet that has duality. And I'm going to pick a very challenging life, because I know one day I'm going to be able to have the courage to do exactly what you talked about, to hold that grief and to know I am eternal and to feel that grief. And on the other side of that is this deeper understanding and appreciation of all that is source, what Jesus called the Father. And when we leave this earth suit, we can literally take with us who we become, what the spiritual wisdom that we learn, and this living record book of source. And every time you overcome through your breath work, there's another child out there. It opens a quantum potential saying, yo, Chris figured it out. He came from the same background I came from. There's a quantum potential and the DNA is all connected where this little child can follow in those footsteps. It creates a quantum potential. And this is why it says Jesus went to Hades, he went to hell. He took the keys and literally created a quantum potential all the way through to create in, you know, your avatar. Your avatar D12 crystal self. Is just to piggyback off what you said. Absolutely. And I think a lot of us have allowed ourselves to go through a lot of different dark nights of the soul to come into this remembrance and to have the joy of remembering. And that happens in the body when we determine and have the courage. Yo, I'm going to sit with my body. This is still source. Even the shadow, I'm going to love. I'm going to love my enemies. I'm going to love it all. I'm going to forgive it all. And once on the other side of that, we realize the trauma becomes traumedy sometimes, because once you put awareness and love and sit with it, you're like, oh my God, I was scared of that for that long. And, you know, with respect and compassion to the body, because yes, I get it. Like, it's not comfortable sometimes and it takes courage. But there is this eternal love that is within us that we can tune into. And on the other side, in the cave we fear, is the treasure we seek, which is liberation and freedom.
Ooh, that's it. That's it. Transforming the shadows into the gifts, man. And that's the opportunity that's presented itself for all of us right now is going into the depths to
Mhm.
reveal the core of who we are, the light of who we are. And I've made a interesting sort of correlation. And again, this is just a personal theory, but perhaps it can be expanded upon. Um, so, a lot of people, they've spoken about a great solar flash, right? And in the
Mhm.
Gene Keys wisdom, I study a lot of Gene Keys, have been for over a decade now, and working within that system as well. Talk about the great mutation that will happen beginning in 2027, which is the mutation of
Mhm.
the solar plexus. Solar plexus, the sun, the
Mhm.
solar energy, great solar flash, perhaps collectively, individually, but of course, everything happens from the inside out. So if this
Mhm.
mutation is happening, throughout humanity, and we're going through this powerful transformation of the solar plexus, rising through and into the heart, what can we perhaps expect? And again, I know there's a lot of unknown, but following this call, going deeper within the body, going within our own light and beginning to expand this out and have these experiences, what do you see in the future timelines, in the highest timeline for collective, for individuals, for everybody listening to this right now? What do you see playing out in humanity in the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now?
Yeah. Yeah. Recently, I'll just start with, on the topic of the solar plexus and on the topic of, at the bottom and tailbone of the spine, literally lives the first 8 primal cells. In ancient wisdom, they call it the Kundalini energy. In quantum morphogenetic physics, they call it dimensions 1 through 9. So it comes in groups of 3. So dimension 1, 2, 3 was harmonic universe 1. Dimension 4, 5, 6 is harmonic universe 2, which is the soul. Dimension 7, 8, 9 is harmonic universe 3, which is the oversoul. And there's people out there who try to force it up through Kundalini yoga and things like that. But it sounds like what Richard and the Gene Keys is saying is there's going to be a great solar flash, which is going to affect the third chakra, which is, Jesus prayed, "Thy will be done." It's the seat of willpower. And so when that is cleared, like recently, I had this breathwork session where this amazing teacher was teaching me, like, hey, listen, just go down like this, go like this, and see the energy coming through, and like open and boom, and like he was looking straight at me, and he was like, you must go through the sun. The energy must go through the sun. And he's pretty much telling everybody, you are the sun. But the energy must pass through the third chakra to hit the heart,
Mm.
which will then go all the way up and it hit the third eye and dimensions 1 through 9, the soul and oversoul. It sounds like there's going to be some clearage of some type of mutation or blockage that has been in collective consciousness. And there's been a lot of them. But in the third chakra, which will open up the sun, there's a sun, and that pathway, when that's open, boom, it will literally go up, and people will realize, in a high, everyone's higher self will come online, right? And dimensions 1 through 9, their soul and oversoul, they'll start having they'll understand I'm multidimensional, and they'll also understand, and this is going to be a bold comment, but it's taken me a long time to be able to say this, is like, you're it. You are the Messiah. You are the way, the truth, and the path. You are, and then people will slowly, like, I know that sounds blasphemous to a lot of our religious brothers and sisters, but eventually, once you have these experiences, you're going to have to own it one day that you are it.
Mm.
And that doesn't mean like this cockiness. No, it's like this humility that happens. It's like, yo, I'm it. I am source. I will do even greater things than Yeshua, is what Yeshua said, because he knew that these times were coming, where we're all going to realize the inner Christos is within, and these amazing technologies and blockages that have blocked us are going to unblock. It's just how it is written. It is the timing of it all. And Richard saw 2027 amazing, and what I've seen and been shown in vision is 2030 is going to be a key year.
Mm.
Is kind of like when people, so 2027, this mass awakening, which is continuously happening, we feel it's happening right now, and more and more
Yep.
people's higher selves going to come online, and there's going to be choice points, timeline separation points. And 2030, from my awareness, and not only me, there's it's been confirmed through Chief Phil Lane Jr. had a vision of 2030. And these points where as people's higher selves come online, and there's going to be a polarization of frequencies, a splitting of timelines, and people are going to have to choose, like, yo, hey, do I want to which timeline, the eternal life Christic timeline spiral, which is time spirals, or do I want to abide by a base 10 mathematical that leads to a black hole? And there's going to be points where people are going to have to choose, right? And 2030, from my awareness, is one of those kind of timelines. Just, and if you look at kind of what's happening in the 3D, Klaus Schwab and his homies in the UN, right? They're meeting every year in Davos talking about 2030, one world order. They're going to literally try to implement, like all these control mechanisms. And, he says they will own nothing and they will be happy, right? So there's like this divine, I call it a divine setup happening where, those who are awakening, there's going to be mass awakenings and mass awakenings. It's not an accident. It's according to the cycles. And 2027, it sounds like will be an important year, and 2030 will be, an important year. And people are going to have to choose, hey, love or fear, man. And it's that simple. And the more that we have that daily practice every single morning, the more we're going to start activating and embodying our soul frequencies, which has access to information beyond space or time, which means that, hey, on these cutoff points or whatever it is, hey, I know that, hey, it's time, become self-sustainable, find a community. Okay. You know what I mean? And all I got to do is have a daily practice and listen, because that part of me will guide me into, it cannot hurt you. Your soul, your oversoul cannot hurt you. And we have direct access to that. And all the tools are our tools to quiet our minds so we can listen.
Mm. Yeah. I feel every word you're sharing here. And like, again, in simplistic terms, the choice point is love or fear. And that's really it at the end of the day. I mean, we could chalk it up to anything, but it is that love frequency or that fear frequency, and which are we choosing? Right. And so everything else from there. So how, a thing that I like to ask myself every day, and even when I'm faced with any decisions that I might want to contract and go back to my small self, I ask them, what would love choose in this moment right now? What would Yeshua choose in this moment right now? I don't know if you remember those old bracelets from like the early 2000s, late 90s. What would Jesus do? People used to wear those all the time, right? It's like, yeah, what would Yeshua, what would Jesus do right now in this moment? So I think that for anybody listening, it's just continuously asking yourself and aligning with love rather than fear. And through that, I believe we can begin to rise up into the greater expressions of our soul self. So yeah, bro, thank you for sharing all of that.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, and like that's I appreciate you that you do that, because that is really the question. Ask the right question and the right answer will come. What would love do right now? And it's such an interesting thing because love is the cohesive power of the universe. It's literally what keeps my atoms together, my cells together, my family together. The universe is held together through this frequency, which is holding everything together, the glue of the universe. And from that question, what would love do right now? And it's interesting because when you look at Yeshua's life, um, you know, he for a lot of people was the embodiment of love. But what we I think sometimes we forget, Jesus didn't just say just be nice, and he was living in that timeline. But if he was alive in this timeline, what would he really do? Because one time he went to the temple, he braided a whip. And I don't think he wasn't whipping people, but like he said, you made my father's house a business. This is a house of prayer. And he consciously cleared the temple out with a whip. He also went to the church he grew up in once he understood the truth that you don't need a middleman, that you are who you've been looking for. And he went to the pastors of the church he grew up in, into their temple on their Sabbath day, and started preaching a new message. That's bold. And then when the pastors came, he looked them in the eye and he said, "You brood of hypocrites." And in their face, in their church, in the temple that he grew up in, he called them out. And then, he hung out with prostitutes and homeless people. He went to tax collectors' homes and, communed with them. And it's like, he wasn't here. Like, you can't feed someone who's not hungry. He went anywhere where people were hungry for the truth. And
Mm.
it's a fascinating thing to understand that there's levels. I don't want to say levels to love. Love is love, but that there's, as we progress, and truth and love are synonymous. And it's such an interesting time in humanity's history right now, where there's these systems that have been set up. And I love that question. Like, what, that bracelet, like, I remember it. What would Jesus do? What would he do? What would love do if I was fully embodied in love and I was not afraid? And, I literally had this intention in knowing that humanity has been through what it's been through. Like, what would he really do? It's a great question. What would love do? And I love that. Sometimes just asking that question and sitting with that, because there's layers. Like, sometimes love has healthy boundaries. Sometimes
Yep.
love is quiet. Sometimes love just allows people to be who they are. But sometimes love, the divine warrior, comes out, and it takes action. And so that's a really beautiful question to sit with.
Yeah, thanks for taking that a little bit deeper. I love what you shared there. And there's a fierceness about it. There's a boldness about it. There's a way of piercing through the veil of illusion and bullshit and getting to the core of what it is that we're dealing with right now. And yeah, that was very well said, very eloquent. So yeah, brother, like, there's so many other things here that I feel like I could travel down, but I want to open the conversation up now. And, we're nearing towards the end, but I want to open the conversation up for your full, authentic, unapologetic truth to be spoken, your vision. What is your vision for humanity? Where do you see things going? What message do you feel so deeply called to share with the collective right now? Those listening to this conversation, and those that this will ultimately reach.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, my message is so simple. Take a look within, and you will find you are who you've been looking for the whole time. But take a look within where? Into the intron potential DNA. Scientists used to call junk. 90 something percent of our DNA, it's non-coding for proteins, so they called it junk. It's not junk. It's potential DNA. And the language of how to activate it is sound, light, and symbols and frequency. And every human being has the potential morphogenetic field to activate. The fourth, fifth, and sixth stranded DNA is the soul. The seventh, eighth, ninth stranded DNA is the oversoul. The 10th, 11th, 12th stranded DNA is the avatar inner Christ. You are the Christ. And there's a very specific science on how intention is everything, how to activate the inner Christos within. Therefore, Jesus said, ye shall do even greater things than me. And you're literally accessing and opening up different levels, whatever you want to call it, the video game, the hologram. You have a planetary individual self. You're part of the planet. You're part of the cosmic, you're part of the galactic, you're part of the universal, and you are literally involved on all dimensions and all timelines with all of this. Once we start opening up the multidimensional self, then the fourth, fifth, and sixth stranded DNA, the superconscious mind, Freud called it, the soul, New Agers call it, holds your purpose. You have deep purpose. When you signed a contract to come to Earth, we chose. Literally, there was a reason that you came. Now the individual starts having purpose, and when someone finds purpose, they want to be here. There goes anxiety, there goes whatever, because you want to be here. The present moment, there's no anxiety. And then so once you receive your purpose, then you start meeting your frequency. Your vibe attracts your tribe. You start meeting your soul tribe. And there's one soul through electromagnetic fission becomes 12 on different timelines. I am the vine, one soul stream, one root node, Sananda, oversoul family, Yeshua. And if through electromagnetic fission, it becomes 12. Now, as you know, the individual has a purpose, but the group soul has a purpose as well. You might meet them, you might not, because everyone's playing their perfect role. But as you know, Arthur and the Knights, the real story, the truth is that they were grid workers. Arthur's sword, Excalibur, was literally holding a Stargate opening tool. And literally they were, one of their parts of their mission was reclaiming Stargate 11 and connecting that to 4, which is, so the video game, the hologram starts opening up into your purpose, your deep purpose. Jesus, I don't like the word disciples. That's a distortion, but had 12 soul family with him. right? And they had a mission too, and so do you. And then so this starts opening up, and then your oversoul starts opening up, and then your inner Cristo starts opening up, and literally at that point, the end path of all paths is spiritual service. What you have done unto the least of them, you have done unto me. It's like, oh, you want God to love you? Love his children, right? And then the end path of all spiritual paths is service to each other, to humanity, to the birds, to the whales, if that's your calling. All is important. All is God. And so once we start opening up to that, then it feels like at this point, every light worker is having a similar vision of like healing centers on different acupuncture points, ley lines of Mother Earth, and coming back into community. Replace the I in illness with we, and illness becomes wellness. Then your vibe attracts your tribe, and then you become, and we thrive in tribe. And imagine like a group one day waking up. There's 12 people who know everything about you. They don't judge you. They love you. And the vision is there's a perfection to it. Everybody gets to do what they love with who they love. And obviously there's going to be outreach programs where we're continuously outreaching to the community, but then these tribes start forming and we start activating. There's councils of 12, some people are seeing, that we start activating the grid points of Mother Earth. And if we activate the ley lines, the brain and the crystals underneath the earth of Mother Earth, right? And let's just say there's 144 tribes located on grid points, high frequency grid points, and simultaneously we drop in through a combined intention, 144 squared. I don't know, that's a lot of energy. And we literally call in primal light and sound fields into these key nodes of Mother Earth, and the crystals underneath the earth start charging, and then the ley lines start charging. Boom. All of a sudden, there's this theory that we can reach a tipping point of frequency if we charge the grids of Mother Earth for the portions of Mother Earth that chooses to be charged. Then we can lift the frequency of the water. We can lift the frequency of the prana of Mother Earth. We can take back the grid lines of Mother Earth. That's been the battle, is for the ley lines, the grid lines of Mother Earth. And when we do that, we can lift the frequency, and theoretically through quantum morphogenetic physics, ultimately, if we reach that tipping point for those who choose, timeline shift massively, because we can timeline shift into what Jesus called the New Jerusalem, what Bob Marley called Zion, what Eckhart Tolle wrote about New Earth, what the Native American Indian chiefs were seeing, the time of a new system. And so this beautiful process, and the cool thing is we're not attached to any of it. We're just doing the daily practice every morning. Okay, for the liberation of all sentient beings, show me what I need to see, tell me what to do. We do the practice, and it's like, oh, do these 2-3 things today. Okay, cool. Today, take a day off and enjoy your life. Okay, cool. And everybody's just playing their part. But eventually, the vision is decentralized system for those who choose, freedom for our children to grow up in tribe and systems that are based on abundance, transparency, respect, and for future generations to be able to come to Earth, to play, to create, to dance with aunties and uncles, according to the original intention of Source, without having reverse grid lines and distortions and artificial systems and inorganic timelines stealing their energy and programming them and traumatizing them from a young age. And all of these healing centers eventually will have all of the technologies, all the teachers, and can you imagine like being born into one of these communities and from a young age having access to gene keys, breath work, meditation, base 12 eternal life wisdom, having the music studio right there. I mean, these little kids are coming in hot like a fajita, and at a young age through gene keys, they're gonna know like, hey, this is why I came to Earth. And the 10,000 hour rule, right? They just put in 10,000 hours, doing what they love. That's why they came here. And we just provide them with the resources and the space to do it. By the time these kids are 14, 15, 16, they're going to be a master of their craft. And literally, these are the kids that are going to change the world. We've been to the depths of the dark period. And so now I feel like it's this beautiful season of, celebration, coming together, remembering, playing, creating, and then also always like having outreach, right? Having an outreach program for those people who are still perhaps remembering. And that's kind of the vision that I feel. I'm not attached to it. Like one of the last things that I had to like let go of was even my attachment to my mission. That for a long time, like that was everything that drove me. But even now, like I'm realizing like, hey, there's a perfection to what is. There's a perfection, and my intention is at one with all, unattached to anything. and obviously intending for the highest good of all, and having compassion and grace for my humanity. And eventually, like, what I'm really kind of tuning into is play, fun, celebration, co-creation.
Oh, and so it is, and so it is, and so it is. Wow. Beautiful transmission. I felt that on every single level, and very much share a very similar vision as you, and have been seated with this, this new way, this new paradigm, the rainbow tribe, the rainbow way. All of this is coming through so strong, and yeah, brother, thank you for being a steward of this path, of being in integrity with your soul, of living your truth, of sharing your truth. It's deeply felt and deeply respected in so many ways. And, just to kind of simplify, bringing back everything we spoke about to the person listening to this conversation, some key things they can do every day, right? The daily practice, breathing, sound, nature, connection, meditation, so forth. Asking the right questions. What would love choose today? How can I align with my greatest service to the whole? God, connect me to my higher self. Just these prompts, these invocations, these questions. And anything else that you would share right now based on someone listening to this, anything else that we missed of what they could be doing every day to really align with this core expression of who they are?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the core of who we really are is it's very simple. It's love. And
Beautiful.
the most powerful healing instrument on the entire planet is our own voice. There's no time. And in the beginning, God said sound, and sound reverberates through space or time. Sound carries timelines and time spirals. And so, a very, very simple exercise, which I sometimes still do, but in the early beginning of my awakening, I would do all the time. It's so silly, but like, I would literally find, like a love song, whatever that love song is. I'd play it. I would look at myself in the mirror, right? And this is just like, it's like the African tribes. When someone, it's all it is when someone forgets that they are loved, they just forgot. And literally they would sing their song to them in their womb. And then when they were born and during their life, when they would forget, they put them in the middle of the tribe and they would sing them the love song until the person remembered, I am love. And love is abundant. Love is here. Love is love. And that's the key. And so like anytime like I'm forgetting that I am love or getting caught up in whatever the rat race, I just play a love song, look at myself and through the eyes, look at myself. The eyes are the window to the soul. And for like, it's silly in the beginning. It's really silly. But like, I just start with, I love you. And then I'm like, I love you. I love you. And then I just change up my tone a little bit. And then, I like sometimes if I'm feeling silly, I'll jump up and dance. I love you. And then I just keep saying, I love you. 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 And when I say these things, all 75 trillion cells, what Jesus called the Father, consciousness, binds to the water. And as Dr. Emoto showed, when you say I love you to water, it changes the crystalline nature of the water to this highly beautiful sacred geometrical shape. And that's what I'm doing is I'm reminding my water and consciousness inside my vessel with my own voice that I am love. And literally, what is fear but an absence of love? That's it, really. And so when I say that, eventually by the end of those 5 minutes, like I started like, this is silly, by the end of those 5 minutes, I'm like, I'm love, man. I'm love. I'm like, I'm love. And then this self-love starts to increase and my cells start getting the message. And my body starts feeling safe. And from that frequency of love, the cohesive power of the universe, I'm connected to everything and everyone. And when I'm in that state, at one with all, unattached to anything, in a state of love, the universe has the right to deliver at any time, because I'm not attached to anything. I'm just love. Anything, every other lesser desire will manifest in perfect divine right timing, harmony, and order. So it's really not about changing. It's about deprogramming everything that we were taught we should be, or we think we should be, or we think we need to do, right? Because at the crux of it, when I deprogram all of that and I'm just me, I am love. And sometimes I forget as a human, And one of my favorite exercises is, it's really simple. Play a frequency love song. Look at myself in the eyes and remind myself I am love. I am love, period. Not because I did something, not because I achieved something, not because I look a certain way, not because I have something in my bank account, but because I am love. I am love. I am source. I am love. And source is love. And I am that. And from that frequency, then, if I want to do something, I can.
Mm. Yes, sir. I love it. I love it. I am love. I am love. I am love. Repeating that, everybody listening to this and tuning into that core frequency, which is you. So, brother,
Absolutely.
you're the man. Thank you so much for everything. And tell people a little bit about where they can find you. I know you got a lot of stuff going on. You got the Eternal Tribe online. You got Limitless Living. Anything you want to share? Where can people find you? Where can they work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. My website is www.samuelbleemd.com. That's also my Instagram, Samuel B. Lee MD. We have an Eternal Life Tribe where the 12-strand DNA activation course is on, and I share on there everything that I've ever learned in the tribe, and it's been fun. And yeah, it's just like a frequency with community there. So that's kind of where I'm pouring my energy into these days. And then also, I won't go too deep into it, but yeah, I facilitate psychedelic medicine journey, which I'm taking a sacred pause on right now. But yeah, SamuelBLeemD.com, and you can check it out there. And if you want to tune in, you can find whatever links there. And I want to express my appreciation and gratitude to you, brother. I see you from that NDE, where you saw the light, a higher portion of you, your dedication and mastery to breath work. And especially really that aspect of asking yourself, what would love do in every situation, and then taking the steps to create this containers and create everything that you're doing for humanity. So thank you, brother. I see you, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, and sending you all the love.
I hope.